In 1987, a dive instructor named Kihachiro Aratake was looking for new hammerhead shark diving spots off the coast of Yonaguni, the westernmost island of Japan. What he found 25 meters below the surface wasn't sharks. It was a massive stone structure with perfect 90-degree angles, straight edges, and carved steps that looked like a submerged pyramid. The structure shouldn't exist. It's either 10,000 years old, which means humans built monumental architecture before we supposedly invented agriculture, or it's a natural formation that defied geology in ways that make no sense. The Japanese government immediately restricted access to the site. Marine biologists, geologists, and archaeologists spent the next 3 decades fighting over what it is, and the more they studied it, the more impossible it became to explain. The Yonaguni Monument, as it's now called, is massive. We're talking about a rock formation, 150 meters long, 40 meters wide, and 27 meters tall. To put that in perspective, that's half the length of a football field, and as tall as a 9-story building. It has terraced levels that look like stadium seating. It has a flat platform on top that resembles an altar or ceremonial space. It has what appears to be a road encircling it. But here's what makes scientists uncomfortable. The angles are too perfect. Natural erosion doesn't create 90-degree corners. Wave action doesn't carve parallel trenches at regular intervals. Geological processes don't produce staircases with uniform step heights. The structure has features that look designed, not weathered. Geologist Masaki Kimura from the University of the Ryukyus spent 15 years diving the site. He documented carved symbols, tool marks, and right-angled joints that he claims are unmistakably artificial. He found what appears to be a carved face, triangular shapes that look like hieroglyphs, and channels that seem designed to direct water flow. Here's the problem with Kimura's conclusion. If the structure is man-made, it was built when the area was above sea level. Sea levels were low enough for that land to be exposed during the last ice age, which ended around 10,000 years ago. That means humans would have built this massive stone structure before the pyramids of Egypt, before Stonehenge, before any monumental architecture we've ever found. It would rewrite everything we know about early human civilization. But here's the problem with calling it natural. Geologist Robert Schoch from Boston University examined the site and said the formation is primarily natural but shows signs of human modification. Not full construction, but terraforming. Someone found a natural rock formation and carved it, shaped it, added steps and platforms. This compromise explanation satisfied no one because it still pushes human stoneworking capabilities back thousands of years earlier than we thought possible. The waters around Yonaguni are classified as dangerous by the Japanese Coast Guard. The currents are fierce. The visibility is poor. The ocean floor drops to depths exceeding 200 meters within half a kilometer of shore. Divers who've been there describe currents so strong they can rip masks off your face and sweep you a kilometer away in minutes. But here's why the site stayed hidden for so long. Local fishermen knew about underwater rock formations in the area, but avoided them. The currents made fishing dangerous, and superstition kept people away. There were stories of underwater structures that shouldn't be disturbed, spirits that guarded the depths, and divers who went down and never came back. When Aratake discovered the monument, he initially didn't report it. He dove it multiple times to make sure he wasn't seeing things. The structure was so geometric, so clearly organized, that he thought he'd found a military installation from World War II. Only after ruling that out did he contact researchers. The Japanese government's response was telling. They didn't rush to explore it. They didn't send archaeological teams. They restricted access and classified the area as a protected zone. Official statements called it a natural geological formation and discouraged further investigation. When independent researchers applied for permits to conduct extensive surveys, they were denied or delayed for years. Here's what happened when researchers went anyway. Kimura conducted over 100 dives between 1992 and 2007 without full government authorization. He documented features that officials claimed didn't exist. What appears to be a stadium with terraced seating, a wide road, and a star-shaped platform. The government response was to tighten restrictions further and classify much of his photographic evidence as unreliable. The main monument gets all the attention, but Kimura found other structures in the surrounding area that are equally impossible to explain. There are 5 distinct formations within 2 kilometers of the main site. All of them are underwater. All of them have architectural features. Structure 2 is a curved rock formation that looks like an amphitheater. It has semicircular terracing that faces a central flat area. The tiers are uniform in height, approximately 50 centimeters each, descending in concentric half circles. Natural erosion doesn't create amphitheater shapes. Structure 3 is what Kimura calls the turtle monument. It's a massive rock carved into the shape of a sea turtle, approximately 10 meters long. The head, shell segments, and flippers are clearly defined. The rock sits on a platform that appears to have been leveled specifically to support it. If this is natural erosion, it's erosion that coincidentally produced a perfect turtle sculpture in the exact location where a platform was naturally flat enough to display it. But here's where it gets stranger. Surrounding the main monument are what look like tools. Massive wedge-shaped stones that resemble ancient splitting tools used to quarry rock. These aren't small. Some are over a meter long and weigh hundreds of kilograms. They're positioned near what appear to be partially split rock faces, as if someone was in the middle of quarrying stone and the ocean rose before they finished. Structure 4 is a long trench with parallel walls. The trench is approximately 10 meters wide, 100 meters long, and 3 meters deep. The walls are vertical and parallel to each other. The bottom is flat. Natural erosion creates V-shaped channels as water cuts downward. This trench has vertical walls and a flat bottom, which is how humans dig trenches, not how nature carves them. In 1998, Kimura found markings on the monument's surface that looked like writing. They're not random scratches. They're organized symbols carved at regular intervals along what appears to be a wall. The symbols include plus signs, V-shapes, and what look like simplified characters. Here's what makes this explosive. The symbols don't match any known writing system. They're not Chinese characters, not Japanese kanji, not any script archaeologists have cataloged. If they're writing, they're from a culture that existed before writing supposedly existed. If they're decorative carvings, they're decorative carvings from 10,000 years ago when humans were supposedly not doing decorative stone carving. But here's the counter-argument. Marine biologist Graham Hancock examined the symbols and said they could be tool marks from later human activity. Fishermen could have carved markers into the rock when sea levels were lower. Local inhabitants could have modified a natural formation for fishing or ceremonies. The symbols don't have to be 10,000 years old. They could be 2,000 years old, from a time when the formation was partially submerged but still accessible. The dating problem is unsolvable. You can't carbon date rock. You can only date organic material found near the rock. No organic material has been found at the site because ocean currents swept it away thousands of years ago. The only way to date the structure is to date when it was last above sea level, which depends on sea level rise data that's imprecise. Here's what we know for certain. The area was above sea level between 10,000 and 12,000 years ago during the last ice age. Sea levels rose as glaciers melted, submerging the land. If the monument is man-made, in 1996, researchers found what appears to be a carved human face on one section of the monument. It's approximately 2 meters tall, showing what looks like eyes, nose, and mouth. The features are weathered but clearly organized in facial proportions. Here's what makes this controversial. Faces are pattern recognition traps for human brains. We see faces in clouds, in tree bark, in random rock formations. It's called pareidolia, the psychological phenomenon where the brain identifies familiar patterns in random stimuli. Skeptics claim the Yonaguni face is just pareidolia, rocks that coincidentally arranged into face-like features. But here's what Kimura documented. The face has bilateral symmetry. The left and right sides mirror each other within 5% accuracy. Random erosion doesn't create bilateral symmetry. The eyes are recessed into the rock at equal depths. The nose projects outward with a defined bridge and nostrils. The mouth is a horizontal depression with what appears to be carved lip definition. Geologist Robert Schoch examined the face and admitted it was difficult to explain naturally. His conclusion was that it's probably a natural formation that humans noticed and enhanced. They found rock that looked vaguely face-like and carved it to emphasize the features. This explanation works, except that it still means humans were carving monumental stone faces thousands of years before we thought they had those capabilities. In 2001, researcher John Anthony West analyzed the monument's orientation and found something unexpected. The structure is aligned to the cardinal directions within 2 degrees of accuracy. The main axis runs almost perfectly east-west. The road curves in alignment with the equinox sunrise. Here's why this matters. Accurate cardinal alignment requires astronomical observation and mathematical calculation. You have to track the sun's movement to identify true north and orient massive structures accordingly. Civilizations we know could do this include the Egyptians building pyramids, the Maya building temples, and megalithic cultures building Stonehenge. All of those are from 2,500 to 4,500 years ago. The Yonaguni monument, if aligned intentionally, demonstrates that someone understood celestial navigation and cardinal directions 10,000 years ago. That's 5,000 years before we have evidence of anyone doing advanced astronomy. It means humans were more sophisticated, more quickly than we've assumed. But here's the skeptical counter. The alignment could be coincidence. Any rectangular structure has a 25% chance of being roughly aligned to cardinal directions just by chance. The monument's east-west orientation could be meaningless. The equinox sunrise alignment could be pareidolia at an astronomical scale, where we're seeing intentional design in random orientation. The problem with that argument is the precision. Within 2 degrees isn't random. Random orientation would show deviations of 10, 20, 30 degrees. 2-degree accuracy suggests measurement and intention. Either someone aligned this structure deliberately, or we're looking at the most precise geological accident in the Pacific Ocean. The mainstream academic position on Yonaguni is that it's a natural formation, possibly modified by humans, but not monumental architecture. This position is based on several arguments that sound reasonable until you examine them closely. Argument 1 is that humans 10,000 years ago weren't capable of this. We have no evidence of monumental stone architecture from that period anywhere on Earth. Therefore, this can't be monumental stone architecture from that period. This is circular reasoning. We don't have evidence because we haven't accepted evidence. If Yonaguni is man-made, it becomes evidence. Rejecting it because we don't have evidence prevents the evidence from being acknowledged. Argument 2 is that natural geology can explain all the features. Sedimentary rock fractures along planes of weakness, creating flat surfaces and right angles. Erosion can create step-like formations. Everything we're calling artificial could be geological processes that happen to create architecture-like shapes. Here's the problem with that argument. Every feature individually can be explained geologically, but all of them together in one location is statistically improbable. A flat platform is explainable. 90-degree angles are explainable. Terraced levels are explainable. A road is explainable. Carved symbols are explainable. A face is explainable. Cardinal alignment is explainable. But all of those features in one 150-meter formation happening by chance approaches 0 probability. Argument 3 is that if this were real, we'd have found other examples. One impossible structure could be an anomaly, but we should find similar structures elsewhere if there was a civilization advanced enough to build this. The absence of comparable sites means this is either natural or we're misinterpreting it. The counterargument is obvious. We're searching for underwater ruins in a vast ocean. We've explored less than 5% of the ocean floor. Dozens of similar structures could exist, and we simply haven't found them yet. The fact that we've found one doesn't mean only one exists. It means we found one so far. In 2013, a documentary team got permission to conduct a comprehensive sonar and photographic survey of the site. They used 3D mapping technology that wasn't available when Kimura did his initial work. The results were released in limited academic circles, but never publicized widely. The sonar data showed subsurface features that aren't visible to divers. Beneath the main monument are what appear to be chambers or hollow spaces. The density scans indicate voids consistent with rooms or storage areas, not solid rock. Natural formations don't have hollow spaces arranged in geometric patterns below larger structures. The 3D modeling revealed something even stranger. When you map the entire site and surrounding formations, they form a complex that looks like a city. The main monument is the largest structure, but there are smaller formations positioned around it in what appears to be urban planning. There's a central monument surrounding structures, a network of roads connecting them, and barriers that could be walls or property divisions. Here's what the team found that nobody expected. At the base of the main monument, buried in sediment, are what appear to be megalithic blocks that aren't part of the underlying bedrock. These are separate stones, roughly shaped into rectangles, positioned at the structure's base. They look like foundation stones placed to support the monument above them. Geologists examined the blocks and confirmed they're a different type of sandstone than the monument itself. The main structure is fine-grained sandstone. The foundation blocks are coarse-grained sandstone with different mineral composition. They didn't form in place. They were brought from somewhere else and positioned there. That discovery should have changed everything. If foundation stones from a different geological source are supporting the monument is man-made. Natural formations don't have imported foundation stones from different rock types. But the finding was buried in academic journals and never reached mainstream coverage. Here's the political reality. If the Japanese government confirms the Yonaguni monument is man-made, they create enormous problems. First, they'd have to explain why they restricted access for 30 years while calling it natural. Second, they'd have to fund extensive archaeological investigation, which is expensive and politically complicated. Third, they'd open questions about who built it and what happened to that civilization. But here's the bigger issue. Confirming advanced human civilization 10,000 years ago in the Pacific undermines established archaeological timelines. It means rewriting textbooks, reconsidering migration patterns, and acknowledging that human development wasn't linear from primitive to advanced. It was sophisticated much earlier than we thought, then collapsed, then restarted. That narrative is uncomfortable. It implies civilizations rise and fall. It suggests humans achieved advancement and lost it. It means we're not on an inevitable path of progress, but on a cycle that's happened before. Governments don't like narratives where civilization can collapse and knowledge can be lost. It makes people nervous about the future. The alternative is calling it natural, restricting access, and waiting for the controversy to fade. That's the path Japan chose. It's politically safer and financially cheaper. The cost is that we don't know what's actually down there because comprehensive investigation is blocked. If the Yonaguni monument is man-made, human history changes completely. We have to acknowledge that 10,000 years ago, someone had the capability to quarry stone, transport massive blocks, carve symbols, align structures to cardinal directions, and build monuments 27 meters tall. That capability disappeared and wasn't seen again for 5,000 years when Sumerians and Egyptians started building. It means civilization is older than we thought and less stable than we assumed. Humans achieved advanced capabilities, then lost them in a cataclysm we don't fully understand. The flood myths that appear in cultures worldwide might be memories of real events when sea levels rose and coastal cities were submerged. It means there could be dozens of other sites still underwater. If Yonaguni was a city, there were other cities. Others exist. We're searching blind in an ocean that covers 70% of the planet, looking for ruins of civilizations that existed before written history. The structure off Japan shouldn't exist, but it does, and the more we study it, the more impossible it becomes to explain. Either geology can create perfect architecture by accident, or humans were building monuments 10,000 years ago, and everything we think we know about early civilization is wrong. Neither answer is comfortable, but one of them has to be true.